know that it can be better. Money is everywhere. I tell this to the lions all the time. Like, money's everywhere. You just got to figure out how to go get it. You know, I love, when Grant Cardone says, who got my money? Who got my money? Like, I got to go these places because they've got my money. And it's so true. It is having that posture and that mindset, knowing what you're worth.
So here's the real mystery. How do regular folks like you and me, who have families and real lives, who have careers and regular 9-to-5s, really fare in the personal finance game? Why are some hugely successful while others fail miserably time and time again? Those are the glaring questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. This is EmpowerYou Financial with Eva Palacios.
All right, and welcome to another episode of EmpowerYou Financial with Eva Palacios. My name is Charles McGill. I'm your host. So excited to be talking to you guys today. But before we get started, got to make sure the credit boss, aka credit coach, is in the building. Miss Eva Palacios, you in the house?
What's up? Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. It's gonna be hot today, like crazy hot. Like, I'm excited.
Yeah, like ridiculous hot, like 105 or something like that.
Something crazy.
Yeah,
like,
we were. You had invited us to come over. Again today.
I know.
We were over yesterday.
Yeah.
Great time, by the way. Loved it.
I know.
Pool party.
I love seeing the boys and Chauncey just all up in the pool, just lounging, no cares in the world.
That was cool. It was
super fun.
The vibes were nice. You had like they got the hot dogs and you had a spread going for us. That was just really awesome.
What's crazy is, like, I don't know if you've noticed, because you've been in the house a couple of times. Like, we've been in this house, it'll be 3 years in October, and like, it's so plain. Like, I haven't designed it, like there's no decor. But the day before yesterday, it was my friend's birthday, and they like literally just bought their house like maybe like not even 6 months ago, and it looks like a magazine. So me and Will show up, and I'm like, I need my house to look like this. Like, what? Like, what are we doing?
Okay, show me a picture of theirs, because yours, it's not bad.
There's like no pictures on the wall. There's no like decor. I'm like, I need decor. I need to look like a magazine.
Well, you're making me feel even worse, because I was going to tell you this. When my son, he was like, I like Miss Eva's house.
Aww.
And I was like, that's cool. I was like, what do you like about it? He was like, it's new. It's like, all right. Hey,
and who is this? CJ?
Okay. CJ. Yeah. Well, the cool thing about it, though, we recently went like house shopping. We were looking around at different model homes, and so they've been really enjoying that. So your house reminded them of what that looks like.
What a new house looks like.
So I don't know what you're talking about, but
no, I need like vases and color schemes and stuff.
Okay. Well, it looks pretty nice.
The decor, like the tablecloth and like the little containers that the food was in, like that was all like bought the morning of.
Hey, it don't matter to me. It was cool.
I was like, we need to make this look nice.
Yeah, and it did. And it felt very inviting and welcoming. I really appreciate that. We had a really great time.
Yeah.
Probably too much fun. I think my boys they had a little too much fun. They knocked out. Which is great.
Like the purpose. The purpose is eat, swim, the sun, drain them. So when they go home, out like a light.
Yes. Well, it wasn't quite just out right away. They got to protest, right? They got to like fight. And so you have to deal with that. And then they finally go to bed. And then, so it was cool. But they slept really long, which is really cool. Johnson had a great time. You got her nice and well, I'll just say she was feeling the spirits. Vibe. So that was cool. So it was overall a good time. Thank you so much for inviting us. I know we talked about this like a long time in the podcast. You've been inviting us, and I keep figuring out we don't. Yeah, but thank you. Like, that was awesome.
You better
now Johnson's going to be over there all the time.
I don't care if you show up late, but you better show up.
Yeah. Well, Johnson's going to be over there all the time now. So
yes. Come on.
Congrats.
Let's go.
All right. So what else? What else is going on with you this week? Anything else?
No. I don't know. Same old.
Same old.
I think so.
Yeah, me too. I got tons of work, which is good. Tons of good work.
Definitely tons of work.
Yes.
Definitely. for sure.
Oh, you know what? I saw something too. We're going to talk about this later.
Oh,
but things are about to get big. I think I'm just going to say that.
Oh, okay.
Let's put that out there.
We haven't had that conversation yet. So
we haven't yet. So we're not going to have it now, but there's just
Charles
been
is gonna crank up the flame on me.
Oh man. Yes, we are, for real. And the thing is, because you know what? I started to think about it. Part of this journey, and we talk about this a lot, but we talked about mindset recently, right? And how mindset is something that is so pivotal, is so important when it comes to improving your personal finances and personal credit.
Yes.
And I don't think a lot of us really understand it. Even if we start the journey, we kind of think it's check this box, do this and that. That's part of it. But there's this big part about mindset. And the interesting thing about being 40 years old, which I am, and trying to change my mind is such a hard, intensive thing, right? Because I start thinking about, well, for me, maybe not for you, but for me it is, I think, because of how long I've been thinking one way, right?
Yeah.
And
it's hard to break the cycle. It's hard. If you're been doing it for so long, it's okay, wait a minute. I've been taught this my entire life.
Yes.
Now you're telling me something different.
Yes. And this is interesting because when you're raised a certain way, and this is the thing, you don't know what you don't know. Right.
Right.
And I was just, thinking about, kind of how I was raised and how I was raised around money, or the lack thereof. Right. We joked about how, Faye word was broke, when I was growing up.
The mail just got shredded.
The mail just got, see, you keep saying shredded. That's fancy. No, we just threw it away. He just put it in the trash. Ain't shredded nothing. It's just put it in the trash. For those who don't remember that story, didn't hear it, basically when I was growing up and, my dad would ask me to go get the mail, and I'd go get the mail, I'd hand it to him and I'd start walking away. He'd be like, hold on, stand right there. And then he would, right in front of me, he'd go, all right, bills. Okay, I'll keep this. Bills. All right. And then he'd hand me the bills and say, throw that away. I kid you not. Right. And so, this is me 7-8 years old. This is my first really, I didn't even know what bills were. I just knew you threw them in the trash.
Bills go in the trash.
That's all I knew. That's the connection I have. Bills go in the trash.
That's so
sad. As I got older, of course, that's not exactly what I did, but in some ways that was kind of built in me, I don't know if I got to deal with this right now. I don't want to deal with it. So maybe, do something else. And so anyway, I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we're raising our kids and how we're getting brought up around finances and, kind of how that transition of, what we were taught younger to how we, evolve older. I kind of wanted to hear more of your story about that, Eva, because it's interesting because you've mentioned it sometimes about how your dad was, how your mom was.
Yeah.
But how did it really inform you? And why did you become, this person that you are in terms of helping everybody else, put the light bulb on? So talk to us a little about that. Start with the beginning, start us back when you were younger.
Well, so first off, I grew up in a single family household, so raised by my mom. And I think I just automatically assumed my dad was good with money. At a young age, I assumed he was good with money because he worked at a bank. So I just assumed, okay, he works at a bank, he must be good with money.
Makes sense.
Right? I mean, right? But then not until I was at an age to where I'd be like, oh, well, Dad, what do you do? He wasn't a teller. He was in the back office with back in the day when people wrote checks and you had to separate all the checks after they've been cashed. And remember how, I don't know. And this was way long ago, but we would get those canceled checks back in the mail as our receipts. So he was that guy that was in the back office separating all the checks and making sure everybody got their checks after they've been cashed. So then I'm like, okay, so is he really good with money or what? Well, yes, he was good with money. He would save a lot. Mm-hmm. But I don't think, he was born in Mexico, came over here at a young age. So I don't even think my grandparents taught their kids about, money and investing and stuff like that. So long story short, regardless, like being raised by mom was the worker bee. Mom was always at work, working really, really hard. And even though she worked really, really hard, I just remember not being able to have everything that I wanted. Now, I will have to say this. Those around me said that I was spoiled, but I don't ever recall that being right. I don't recall that ever being true, because I remember cousins that were my same age. They got way more than I did growing up. So I'm like, I can't be spoiled, like, because that's like, to me, like, that looks spoiled. I remember being poor. Mm-hmm. So
well, spoiled is subjective, right? I mean, it is. It's relative to who you're talking about. I mean, people used to say I was spoiled because I didn't get as many I didn't get as much trouble as other kids. And not, I wasn't like, I didn't have more money or nothing. I didn't get much trouble. The only reason why is because I listened. That was it. Like, if they said don't go here, I didn't go. That was pretty much it. Oh, you're spoiled. Look at this kid. Like, but that, it's so weird. Like, no, that doesn't
right. Like, I guess everybody's perception is different, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so long story short, like, I just felt, it's so crazy because our household didn't talk about money. So I didn't know until I was probably about 8th grade going into 9th grade, where then the vocabulary started changing amongst my peers. And they were like, well, are you lower class? Are you middle class? And I'm like, what is that? Like, what is that? Like, I don't even know. Like, what does that mean? Blue collar, white collar? Like, what does that mean? Like, we didn't talk about money. So all I knew is we had a roof over our head, food on the table, clothes on my back. We're good. Like, that's what financial security meant to me. But yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with money. I remember even just being, in the household, my mom going through different cars, because when she bought a car, like, it was a lemon and it would break down. And, and that to me, like, is struggle, right? Yeah. Just to have to, constantly get into a new transaction because a transaction that you got into just sucked. And then that's where I started becoming aware. And then here's what was the very pivotal moment was when I was in my junior year and I wanted to go to prom. And it was no, because we can't afford it. Like, we can't buy you a dress. And then I'm like, well, can they really not afford it, or they just don't want me to go to prom? So I just remember going to my dad and asking him, like, hey, Dad, like, can I have some money? Like, I want to go to prom. The ticket is this, the dress is this, shoes, hair, makeup, like all that stuff. And he was like, nope, we don't got money. And then I basically made a proposal to him. And I said, okay, well, if I can find a way to earn to pay my way, can I go? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And I think he was just like calling my bluff. But your girl at 15 and a half got herself a work permit and started working at the mall, and we made it happen.
You did your Eva thing.
I did. I'm like, I want to go. Like, my friends are going, like, they getting a limo. Like, I need to be there. So started working at 15 and a half at the mall.
It's so funny how much our stories parallel. Because, like, one of the when I started to realize we were broke was like when I was in elementary school, and there would be all these jokes about cars, like people would say you got a hoopty or, a Pinto. That was a bucket, but it was a Pinto in particular, right? A Pinto, right?
Aww, and poor little Pinto.
Yeah, they used to clown the Pinto, right? And it was a horrible looking car, and but I remember like one day coming home from school and looking in our driveway, and I was like, hold up, Dad, do we got a Pinto? And we had a Pinto. Oh, and I was like, oh no. Like, and it was, he had lots of different cars. I don't know. I don't even know the story of that car, but I just knew it was in our driveway. It might've been my grandmother's. I don't know, but it was, in me, I was devastated. I was like, we're broke.
Not the Pinto.
We're so broke. Like, and I was, sleeping on the floor and things like that. All that stuff didn't really seem too abnormal, but that in particular was like, wow, we're broke. And then also coming into high school for me, I made varsity and I was playing basketball, and I just, was so excited about making varsity. And, part of the whole thing is to get the gear and get the new shoes. And at that time it was like the pennies, and they were like the Penny Hardaways, and they were like super expensive. And I remember coming to my dad, like, and basketball was a big thing in my family. So everyone was really happy that I made varsity. And I was like, yeah, we got to get these shoes. Everyone's getting the same shoes. And he was like, not you.
Aww.
I was like, what? I'm like, no. I got to get these shoes. Like, there's no way around this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, nah, we can't afford it. Like, just can't do it. And it was, I think, I don't know, $180 or something like that, $200. I was like, no way. So I actually ended up working at 15. I started working because I was like, I am no way I'm showing up without those shoes. So I started working. All right. So take it from there. So you start working. And so how did things change from there?
Started working at the mall, men's clothing store. I mean, I pretty much applied everywhere. Like,
which one?
It was called Oak Tree.
Okay.
Which was
Structure.
Okay. Structure? Yeah, of course. I think they were like sister companies. There was like a chain of companies, JW. Remember JW? So anyways, so I started working there because, back then at the mall, I mean, I don't even know how you do it these days, but at the mall, you'd like walk in, get an application, fill it out, turn it in, and wait for somebody to call you. Yep, so I just remember like me and my, girlfriends in high school, I'm like, well, I'm going to go get a job. And they're like, really? And they're like, okay, well, I'll come with you and let's just, fill out applications. Let's see what happens. So, so some of my friends got jobs at like the other stores. So yeah, started working in men's clothing, like customer service. Like, I don't know, like, I'm like, I just show up and you just teach me and let's just see how this works. And, yeah, so sure enough, held that job and all throughout high school. So all throughout my junior year, my senior year. So I was with that company for probably about, actually it was probably like a year and a half, because after Oak Tree, I then went to Florsheim Shoes, fancy shoes for these guys. Right. And I must have been older gentlemen because they were dress shoes. They were like really like, I just remember like wingtip fancy dress shoes that were like $350. And I'm like, okay. And I started working there because my friend was working there. She became the assistant manager and they're like, hey, we need people, like come work for me. And I'm like, okay. So started working there. And then that's where, a regular came in to buy these, fancy shoes and just helped him, offered him customer service. And he was like, you got some really good customer service skills. My wife is about to go on maternity leave. And when she leaves, like, I know they're going to look to replace her for the time being. So, why don't you, he wrote down a name and a phone number. He's like, why don't you give this, girl a call? And it turns out that the lady that I called was the head of HR. And she's like, and just tell her that, that me and that I'm recommending that you get an interview. So I called and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I've always been like, okay, sure. Like, let's try it and let's see what happens. Right. So I called and, then they told me, this was, a credit counseling company and they're downtown San Francisco. And I'm like, oh, downtown San Francisco. Like, that sounds important. Mm-hmm. Right.
You can wear wingtips there.
I mean, you could, but nobody did, but you could. Okay. But just the fact of like being, downtown financial district, tall buildings, I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. Like, sure, I'll come in for an interview. Came in, got hired on the spot. And then I started working at this company and like, I didn't know what it meant. Like I literally started answering phones and then, they're like, oh, well, let's move you to this department. And then I did customer service. And then they're like, oh, well, let's move you to this department. Then I started getting trained to be a counselor. I didn't know what that meant. Like, all I knew is I would answer phones and I'd transfer the phones. Like, I didn't know who was calling, why they were calling. I would just, back in the day, you'd like transfer manually and it goes to like different offices. And then when I got to customer service in the customer service department, these were people that were calling in because they had accounts with them because they had consolidated their debt. This is where then I had to learn, okay, well, what is this company doing? How are they doing it? How are they helping people? So, these companies still exist. And this is where, if you have a lot of credit cards and it becomes very overwhelming, you can go to, companies like this. They would combine all of your debt together, give you one payment at, one interest rate. But it was a little bit different because it depends on who your creditors are. That determines whether or not you get one rate or a lot of different rates. But basically was helping people get out of debt more efficiently. So then I got to learn about, well, what is that? Like credit cards? Like, what are those? How do those work? And then that's where they're like, oh no, we're going to make you a counselor. Like, because I started asking a lot of questions and they're like, oh, like, are you interested in this? Like, okay, let's put you over here. And then that's where they just trained me about everything to do with personal finance, the credit cards, how loans work, how money works, how debt works, how to buy houses, cars, how to prevent foreclosures, how to prevent repos, all of that stuff. And I'm just like, man, like, where else do you go to learn about this stuff? Because I didn't learn about it at home. Yeah. And I'm just like, how does this happen? Like, how does this turn into me just wanting to get money to go to prom?
Yeah. Well, that's what I want to talk about. Cause I want to dig more into the whole counseling piece. Cause it's interesting that they would call you counselor. I think that's really interesting. Yeah. But the other part I want to dig in a little bit more is just that, okay, so you're now getting this education, right?
Yep.
And I remember like the first time, this is not to have like a religious conversation, but I remember the first time I went to college and I took a class called Third World Religions. And I had only been raised Christian, like only knew that, right? That's the only thing I knew. And then just to hear and learn about other religions and just like how they kind of came about and then the similarities, it just blew my mind. Like, and that's all I'm going to say about that. This is not like once again, but I was just like, whoa, like right? I had no clue that all this existed and there's these different perspectives. Right. So talk to me a little about just like what that was like. Like, you've never heard this stuff and all of a sudden, bam, you're getting dumped with like, this is the game.
Yeah. Well, and I think it is so cool because I started there at a young age. I mean, I was 17 when I started there. So like I had no education about money. So I think getting in at an early age with literally a clean blank canvas so that what I learned stuck, but most importantly, I learned the right stuff. It wasn't like, you learn this, but no, that wasn't the truth. It was really this. It was like top-notch credit, financial education, like by the book, by the laws, by, their parent company was the National Foundation of Consumer Credit. So like they had like, people above them that are making sure that people are learning right and learning the laws and all of this stuff. So for me, like I was soaking it all in because I'm like, what? Like, this is how it works? Yeah. Like, we're going to take all of that and just keep putting it in my back pockets and everywhere. Like, we're just going to hold on to this info. And then, being in that position and actually counseling people about money and, hey, I just got a call from this creditor, they're threatening to throw me in jail. Like, is that true? And I'm like, well, who's calling you? Well, first of all, like nobody can throw you in jail unless it's the IRS, but they're going to be mean about it and try to scare you to make payments. So like, it was just having all of that knowledge and then talking to somebody and that's in panic mode because they're like, what do I need to do? Because I am not trying to go to jail today. And being able to just calm them and let them know, like, here's the reality. Here's the truth behind what this is doing.
So this is the beautiful and really, really great thing about you, Eva. And I think this is what also we're really trying to get people to understand the difference between what it is to be a part of the EmpowerYou community, what it is to be a Lion, and what it is to be under your guidance is that you are trained as a counselor, right? You're trained to help us in a different, this is not no credit repair, quick hit, do this form thing. This is a whole different understanding. And if you think about what it means to be a counselor and what it takes to really kind of empathize, right? To really understand what people are going through, then also provide the appropriate solutions. It gets deep. So that's not where I wanted to go
deep
today. Exactly. Because we actually have some really cool guests that are also lions that we wanted to bring on. But the reason why I kind of wanted to take you down that road of, how you started and kind of like, how you evolved into your understanding now is because when I was talking to both of our guests, they both mentioned their childhood and kind of like how that was a foundation for them in terms of, maybe not knowing things and then now evolving. I kind of wanted them to kind of talk a little bit about that and how that transitioned into who they are now and how that's informing them and how they're moving forward, how it's impacting their family, their kids, their relatives and things like that. So that's a really cool thing I want to talk about today. So if you don't mind, Eva, can you introduce our guests like you've done before, and then I will jump back on and we'll get to talking to our guests today.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I've got two fabulous guests joining us today. Somebody that I've known for a very long time and somebody that I just met probably within the last year. And this guy is just right there, testament that, you could know me for a really long time or not. And I'm just going to let these two fabulous ladies just share their stories on what they've experienced so far. But just to, kind of give a little bit of details on who these people are. We'll start with Miss Jessica Olson. She, her kids and my middle son, they've been going to school since the 4th grade. And this school is, it's like a little smarty pants type of school. So that's super dope. Right. But most importantly, this is where, it was a smaller school because it was, considered like a charter school and, classrooms are a lot smaller. But what I loved about this is it allows us as parents to be able to bond more because of, the size and even just the curriculum. Like I'd be on the phone, like, girl, like, can you help me? We got a field trip going on and I am like so not prepared. So her kids and my son, they went to school together. So we've been knowing each other for about 6-7 years, probably about now. And then we've got Jiggy, who I have just grown to know and to follow. And she's freaking amazing herself. I'm like, girl, I love you on Instagram. But I met her through a network, through Eric Thomas and Breathe University. And I'll let them just both share their experiences. However, let's start with Jessica, because Jessica, she got crazy goals and she's actually on call right now. So she might need to like pick up the phone. So we're going to make sure we go to her first.
Okay.
So, and hope that like that doesn't happen.
Yes. Okay. Good to know. Thank you. All right. Okay. Jessica. All right. So yeah, just talk to us a little bit about, kind of like, similar to Eva, like how you guys started in terms of learning, like your financial education, right? What was the foundation of that? Like how was that? And then tell us about where you are now.
Yeah, for sure. So like Eva said, I met her roughly 6-7 years ago, and I didn't know a lot about financial issues. I was starting to learn a little bit because 20 years ago when I met my husband, my credit score was like 400. And that's no lie. That's no joke. It was like 400. I didn't know what I was doing growing up. I was never taught how to write checks or how to balance books or, don't spend more than what you have. And, we basically scraped by growing up. And, I was, like Eva said, in a single parent home for a while until my stepdad came into play. And it was tough. It was rough. We had a lot of kids, and it was rough going. So I didn't learn anything until I was in and out of the military. And I was told in the military, save your money, save your money, save your money. Mm-hmm. You don't make money in the military, So I basically grew up going, okay, I can't do this. Watch me. I can't do this. Watch me. And so when I was in the military and they said, save your pennies, you're not going to make money. And I was like, watch me, so I just kept going and kept going. But then when I met Eva years ago, I was like, no, I got to get to a whole new game here. And so just recently I've been sitting back watching and stuff. And I've been in MLMs with Eva and stuff and made money. And I've got incomes coming in from different places and stuff, multiple incomes. That's always something, a good thing,
Yep.
husband too, he's got incomes coming in, and it's something that we just thought, okay, our kids are older now. They're 17, 18. We got to figure this out, and we got to be able to teach them the right way because we were never taught.
Yep.
So yeah, I upped my game and I signed up for the empowerment group and the Lions Club. And I was like, all right, let's get this going. And so basically, I met with Eva, I think the first time regarding this, April 5th.
Okay.
And so in 20 days, we increased our credit limits by $45,000.
Hold on.
Jessica's about to like drop some bars right now. Like she's ready with dates.
You're not about to just run by that. No. You're about to have a list. We got to stop right there. Hold on.
Jessica's like, I don't play. Let me just drop it right quick.
I don't play.
You increased your limits by $45,000 in 20 days.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So, let's.
And it would have been faster if I wasn't working so much, but let's be real.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. So, but here's the thing. Okay. So, number one, does this program cost $45,000?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Not even close.
Not even close. Okay. All right. So we want to establish that. That's number one. All right. Yeah. Number two is, so what was the difference? Because, I've got my session, and I want people to understand what the difference is. So what exactly, how did that happen? How did you get that increase?
So basically over the last, 5-6 years talking to Eva and stuff, she's like, no, know your worth, know your worth, know your worth. And I've been told that and heard that and heard that and heard that. And so I increased my credit score from 400 to the 700 range. And I've been back and forth between 700 and 800 for like 3 years now. And my goal has always been, go from 400 to 800. I want to be that 800 range. I want to be the top of the barrel. I asked Eva when we started this, what is the top score that you can get? Because that's what I want. I want to be the top score. I want to be the best of the best. So let's get that. So that's kind of what I went. And she's like, girl, your credits are good now. Why aren't you doing this, this, and this? She's like, call them, ask them for an increase, see what you can get. And that's all I did. I called them. I got online. I typed in my info. And I was still playing on the mentality that I was making $12 an hour. I was still playing on the mentality that I was working 20 hours instead of 60 plus hours. I was working on the mentality that I was still in my hometown, living in a trailer, scraping by. And so Eva just flipped the script and she's like, no, get your mentality where it needs to be. Get your mentality where it belongs.
Wow. And okay. You give me chills right here. Cause I'm just thinking, I'm thinking about the fact that, because you said something so powerful there. This was available to you. Your credit score said that you deserved it. Right. But you didn't know.
Right.
And a lot of it was based on what you're telling me is kind of like what you knew in the past. You could, you were kind of stuck there. And then Eva was able to say, hey, no, this is something different.
Yep.
And you deserve this. And then you just had to just go and follow the game plan and boom.
Yeah. Wow, she just laid it out there for me. And, I'm one of those people that if I'm told, no, you can't do it, I do it. And then I'm also one of those people that are like, girl, what are you doing? You've got this available to you. Do it. So I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay. So that blew my mind. $45,000, just bam, just like that. And that's a lot of leverage, right? If you think about it, for those who are thinking to themselves, like, obviously it's not $45,000 cash. No. And hopefully and Eva will tell you, don't go and spend that. Right.
Oh no,
but
not at all.
The leverage and the power and also the safety net that it provides, like instantaneously does something to you. You know what I mean? And okay. So tell us more, because it seemed like you're about to have a list. So go ahead with the list. Okay.
No. And this is just mind you in 20 days, just 20 days after our first meeting.
Okay.
So I also increased my income by $3,000 by taking on a second job that I can do at home while I'm here with my family and still being able to care for my family and have conversations with my family and not miss out on that time. So I increased my income by $3,000. Our net amount per month increased by $2,130. Our revolving and student debt decreased by $7,342.17. Can't forget that 17 cents.
I love
it
she
can
put
make
the
a difference.
cents on it. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Just by rolling payments from one to another and, trying to decide where best to approach. Because let's face it, I have student debt. I was embarrassed about that before because life's like, okay, let's go to school. Let's get an education. You have to do this. You have to do this, have to do this. And mind you, I love what I do. I'm a nurse. I love what I do. I wouldn't change it for the world. But that student debt that comes along with that is ridiculous.
Yes.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And I've got 3 associate degrees. My student debt reflects that. It definitely reflects that. So, it's something that I had to sit down with Eva and figure out what best way to approach it. So approaching it a specific way helped reduce that revolving debt out per month, and makes all the difference in the world when you want to spend extra money on something to reduce your debt.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I earned $325 from Chase just by opening an account.
There you go.
Free money. Free money.
Love it.
Hey, quick break here. Sorry to interrupt the podcast. We'll get you right back to it. We just want to spend a few seconds to talk about the EmpowerYou financial group on Facebook. This is Eva's private Facebook group where she gives free tips, tricks, and strategies to improve your financial situation. Join the over 1,000 plus member community and see the success stories of people just like you who want to live life on their own terms. Come laugh with us, tell your story, and share your victories. Just search EmpowerYou Financial in Facebook and join our free private group. Oh, and be sure to invite a friend.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jessica, the one thing that also I think is just amazing about your story is, so you went from, kind of this place of, like you said, $12 an hour, just kind of just thinking a certain limited way to now you're being exposed and you're opening yourself up and you're like, wow, you know what? I need, more, right? I need more and I deserve more and I want to be number one. That's right. So tell us a little bit more about, because I think you have an interesting story about how you recently purchased a car, right?
Yeah. So,
which that wasn't even on the game plan, by the way.
Okay.
But we definitely were talking auto loan strategies. But I think just because she has been exposed to the new level way of thinking, she was like, okay, wait a minute, Eva. So, okay, let me make a move. And she made a powerful move. Jessica, tell him what you did.
Please tell the story.
Yes. So a year and a half ago, I was working at a local hospital and I bought a Jeep because I wanted a Jeep. I deserved a Jeep. I got what I wanted. Everything was perfect. But then fast forward to now, and I don't work at the hospital anymore. I work in homes and I work in an office that I travel to. So I travel a lot. I drive a lot. And I started noticing that as the prices went up in gas, I was spending more money out than what I was really needing to. So I was like, okay, although I love my Jeep, I need to make the smart move and save money. So I started looking at what I could do to decrease my monthly payment, which was $710 to pay for this Jeep. I was paying $710 a month to pay for this Jeep, which, mind you, I went for the higher so I could pay it off faster. It was fine. I was okay with it. I could make that money. I could pay the payments, and I love my Jeep. But then, I started looking, my son's going off to college. My daughter's going off to college next year. I'm paying out $710. How can I reduce that and pay off something faster? How can I reduce my cost in gas and pay off stuff faster? So I started doing research on cars and I landed on a Prius. Mind you, I'm only 36. Whoever thought that a Prius would be in my mind? No, thank you. I grew up thinking Priuses, come on now, who's driving a Prius? But man, you start looking at those gas mileages and I found a Prius hybrid plug-in that you can get 133 miles per gallon. Wow. Sometimes I drive up to 300 miles a day. No brainer. Let's be real. Yeah. No brainer. So I started looking around and I found a couple cars that I liked, and some of them were more expensive because dealerships mark up cars. And some of them were right what I wanted. Well, I thought, okay, if I take this beautiful Jeep in that's got low mileage on it, that's been well taken care of, and I get a cost for it, then maybe they'll give me a deal. They'll work with me here, and I found a car. I'm not going to say which dealership it was because I don't want to throw them under the bus.
Yeah, no need to do that. Yep.
I don't know. It might've been a bad day for them. So I got prices on my Jeep well ahead of time. I knew what my Jeep was worth. I knew what I wanted for it and what I owed for it. So I went in to all these places knowing I wasn't going to take anything less than $35,000 for my Jeep because my Jeep was top of the line Jeep.
Yep.
And so I took it into this one dealership because I found the car that I wanted at the price that I wanted. And I knew that was my car. That's the car I wanted. Took it in there, asked him for a price, and he came back and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll give you $30,000 for it." And I was like, no. And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "No, you're lowballing me." And he's like, no. I said, "Dude, you're lowballing me." And mind you, I went in to do this. I didn't go in with my husband.
Yeah.
I didn't go in with a friend. I went in to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew what it was worth. I knew what I deserved. I knew what was going on. I've worked on cars. I understand how this business works. So I just told him, I said, "You're lowballing me." And he's like, "No." And I was like, "Yeah, I've gotten prior quotes to this." And he says, "Well, ma'am, if you knew anything about cars, you would know." And I was like, hold on. I was like, "Would you say this to my husband?" Did you say this to my husband? And just blank stare.
Oh, man.
And I was like, "Yeah, no, we're done here. Yeah. I'm good." And I walked out. And so I went and I double checked close by. I was like, "Okay, can you tell me my price of my Jeep?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. $36,000. I was like, "Okay, that's what I thought. Just making sure." So I got that price for my Jeep. And then I was like, "No, I'm going back to get my car. I'm going to go get that car and I'm going to show them what this Jeep is worth." So they knew what my Jeep was worth. And I went back and got my car. And so when I went in there and I said, "I want these deals that you got going on, and I want the extra $900 credit that you've got for, this, this, and this." And he's like, "Oh, well, we don't advertise that." And I was like, "I want that credit." And he's like, oh, okay. So let's get some paperwork going. He was kind of dumbfounded and was like, "Okay, who's this chick coming in here?" I don't know.
So that usually means let's run your credit. That's usually when they. He's like, "Well, we'll give you an estimate on what your payment's going to be based off of average credit, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "No, my credit's not average." And he's like, "Okay, well, we'll give you this first." And so of course he's like, "Okay, your payment's going to be like $600-$700 a month because it's a 30,000. And I was like, "No. Hold on. So Jessica, hold on, because I feel like you know the answer to this because you come so prepared. So what is your credit? Do you mind saying? My credit is 709. My FICO score is 797. Ooh, she said my FICO. So not your Credit Karma. Is that no? My Credit Karma is much lower. Not worth it. It's real. No. So you knew your score. Yes. And you knew when they ran your credit what it was going to be. Yes. And that and you knew based on that what you deserved. Yes. And I knew I had already gotten a pre-approval offer through my credit union too. Because I follow Eva's steps. Let's be real. Let's go. So I came in there with a loan offer knowing what I could get, what I was worth, what my payment was going to be, et cetera, et cetera. And so they quoted me at the very lowest that they could go was 3.99. And I was like, no, I got a 3.44. And he's like, okay. And so of course it's like, let's do some paperwork and we'll send it over to them and we'll see if you're really pre-approved. And I was like, all right, run my credit. Let's do this. And so we're sitting down and he's like, okay, your credit came back good and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, ma'am, he's like looking around and he's like, is your co-signer here? And I was like, oh my goodness. To him and I was like, co-signer? I was all, sir, you ran my credit and looked at my income. And he goes, oh, I assume that income was a joint income. And I said, no, sir. Wow. I do not need, or do I need a co-signer? And that's my income. He said, well, all right, then let's get you rolling. What? Oh my goodness. And here's the thing, because I mean, you are married, right? You said before,
I am married,
right?
yes.
Yeah, but the cool thing, Eva talks about how, if you can do it by yourself, do it by yourself. And there's legit strategy and reasons for that. It is so powerful that oh man, that story is just amazing. I mean, you just standing firm, knowing who you are, knowing you got all your ducks in a row, and demanding what you deserve. And oh my goodness. So long story short, you got the Prius.
I got the Prius, and I got all of my ducks in a row, and I got all my discounts. And then even though my pre-approval letter came back at 3.44, I got my final approval of 3.34. So even though they were quoting me at 3.99 with a $700 payment, blah, 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 I have a $400 payment.
Yes.
Wow. Oh,
so I went from a 710 to a 400. So with a better interest rate.
Oh my God. Okay. Jessica, that is an amazing story. So before we wrap up with you and go to Jiggy, tell me, like, what would you say to that young lady that was making $12 an hour, who, couldn't imagine where you are now? What advice would you say to her?
Don't listen to the haters. Keep on fighting for what you believe in and what you deserve.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you so much, Jessica. That's an amazing story. Oh my goodness.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Dude, that's that posture. She had all the right information, all of the right coaching, knew what her worth was, knew the value of the vehicle. Like, dude, she killed it. Like everything that I talk about on these podcasts or online, like Jessica literally did everything that I always preach about. And this is why she won in that transaction. And she not done.
Might I add, I will save $3,000 a year on gas.
Hey, just winning on top of winning.
And I'm sure there's like a tax rebate incentive because
there are plenty.
Electric,
There
love it.
A lot. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jessica. All right, Jiggy, you are up. You are up, Jiggy. Let's hear your story. Let's hear about you. And if you don't mind, I would love for you to kind of start, with your foundation, right? Your foundation around finance and kind of like where that began and kind of how you've evolved to where you are now.
Yeah. But before I get started, I have this tiny mic here for Miss Jess, and I'm just gonna drop it because wow, that was also. I'm just over here laughing, listening to her story because I read it in the Facebook group, and I was like, man, this woman is a gangster. She's a gangster. But then I'm also thinking, like, this whole time I'm telling Miss Eva, like, I want a Jeep this year. And she's like, now she's talking, and I'm like, do I?
I want
no, girl.
Maybe a Prius.
I don't know about a Prius. I'm gonna have to rethink my strategy. Okay, so as far as my story goes, the foundation. So I grew up in South Korea. I was born and raised there, and there, the culture that I was surrounded by was basically this. I hate saying this. I hate to say it, but looking back, it's a lot of scarcity mindset that's normalized. And you don't realize that it's scarcity mindset because that's the country that we live in. It's the norm. So when I say scarcity mindset, it's more so like we reuse everything. We make the most use out of something possible. So even if it's like a rag, it's like we get old t-shirts and use it as a rag and to clean the house. And that was the norm. And my only idea of what wealth might look like is when Titanic was on TV and I would see all these white people on a boat and, they look rich. And therefore in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's what wealth looks like. In America, you got to be white and you're on a boat and you just go somewhere and everybody's wearing fancy suits. And that's what wealth looks like. There are wealthy people in Korea. It's just that I didn't have any like access to seeing what that even looks like. And also, I think that I grew up with the mindset that to be wealthy, it has to be in the family bloodline. So as far as like dynasties goes, basically, it has to be within the family wealth. And so if you were born into a family that's not that well off, that's just how it is for the rest of your life. And that's the story for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know all this because to me, it was all normal what we were doing. Growing up, I also hated money. I hated money because of what it did to my parents' relationship. And I grew up just watching them argue and fight all the time. And I have this very distinct memory of them. Like one time it almost got really physical too. I remember my brother and I had to like separate them physically, like push them away from each other because they were arguing so much about finances. And so I grew up hating money because I said that I hate what it does to people. I hate this power narrative that people have. I hate that it can separate families and just in order to be happy, you have to have money.
Yeah.
In order to have freedom, you have to have money. And so I hated money growing up. And that's just kind of how it has always been. Once I moved to America, my dad stayed in Korea in order to work and provide for the family and send us money. So whenever I needed money for something, I had to ask for permission. But with asking for permission comes scolding and disciplining me. And questioning me, like, what do you need it for? Why do you want that or need that? Just questioning literally everything that I wanted. And so I grew up basically just trying to stay away from never asking for anything in life. And so now here I am growing up thinking that I don't really deserve things. And if I did, like, I have to work really, really, really hard for it. And so then my work ethic is crazy because I'm spending all of my life thinking that I need to earn everything and work extra. But the more I grew up and the harder I worked, I'm just kind of looking around and I'm like, okay, there are definitely people who are working less harder than I am and they still have more money. And so then I started to hate money even more because I'm just like, what? Like, why can't I have this, you know? So hard and all this and that and third. And like working hard is not a problem for me, but I'm just like, okay, I know for sure, like this homie next to me works less harder than I do. And like, why does he have more than I do? Why does his family have more than I do? And that all just translated to like, even if I did want to work when I was 13, 14, 15 years old, my mom just kind of like wouldn't let me. I had to get like a work permit and a social security number. And like, you know, I'm still not a citizen here. I'm just a permanent resident right now. And this whole process of being able to work in America and things like that was really complicated. But at the same time, I was ready to work. Yo, you don't have to give me money. I'll earn my own money. Let me work. But I wasn't allowed to do that because all I had to focus on was school and A pluses and extra credits and honor society and getting into a Greek school. And so that's all I could focus on. And once I was able to work, again, I worked a lot and I worked with great excellence. I got promoted like that. Like I wasn't surprised. I just wanted to make more money. But at the same time, I saw that even though I was making money, my mentality was still different from that of my friends.
Yeah.
My friends who were able to work since they were 13 years old. My friends who got a big allowance all the time. My friends who aren't afraid to spend money on Jordans when we were in high school. Like I grew up just like, what do I need Jordans for? I don't need it. I might want it, but I don't need it. And so I'm spending only money on things that I need and prioritizing my money for the things I need, like paying bills. And I do believe that's really important. But at the same time, I have this constant mindset of like, I have to earn everything. And I'm not basically allowed to spoil myself. Like I'm not really allowed to like enjoy buying things or having things because I always have this other bill to pay.
So talk to me a little bit about kind of like that transition, because like, so that was a foundation, right? So that was kind of the thinking, growing up. And so how has that evolved? In what ways, especially with now being exposed to the EmpowerYou community and also the Lions Club?
So the first time I was exposed to the positive angle of money, let's say that. I've heard of books like, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, all that. I've heard of those books, but I was just like, those books are for like those kind of people. It's not for me. It's never going to happen for me. The first time I was exposed to a different angle of looking at money was when I was 23 or 24 years old. I had this guy who was my mentor, and we had a conversation about money. And he said, I know you have your relationship with money. Let's talk about it. And he said, why do you hate money so much? And I told him why, the parent story. And then he was like, okay, but was that money's fault that your parents were arguing so much? Or is it their lack of education and financial literacy that they were getting into arguments so much? Was it their lack of education? Was it their lack of responsibility for their financial, wellness? And I said, yeah, you know what? Like, obviously it's not money's fault. It was, and I'm not saying it was my parents' fault either. It's just that we were literally not surrounded by any education. That's just the culture.
That's right.
It's just,
you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. We were surrounded by what we only know. And so I'm not pointing fingers and blaming my parents. It just is what it is. But that really brought light to like, okay, you know what? If we were to look at the positive side of money, it can help people. It can help countries. It can do well for other people. It can bring me happiness in a way that I can provide for myself as well as helping other people. But even though he told me that and it hit hard, and I was like, wow, money is not this evil thing, and it's about what you do with it and how you use it. At the same time, it still wasn't like practical steps enough. Like, okay, switching my mindset, that's cool. And reconditioning your brain is something that you constantly have to work on for years and years. And at the same time, I mean, that the mentorship relationships kind of fell off. And so I didn't have somebody just kind of like guiding the way for me. And that's when Miss Eva came into the picture. And now I have practical steps, and practical steps are really important to me because I'm a step-by-step kind of person. I need everything to be practical. I need everything to be reachable, obtainable. And also reassurance that it's all possible, that I am deserving of those things. And that it's possible, that it's not just my narrative. I have to change my own narrative. It starts from the inside and apply to all of my actions on the outside.
So talk to me a little about that. So how, in terms of the steps you've taken, has anything changed in terms of, since you've, become a Lion and been a part of the community?
Okay, so my story isn't like my
it's all right.
My $40-something $1,000, $7,000 here, $3,000. My story's not like that at all.
It's all good.
However, I think what is important is that like each of our journeys are different. And I think what's so important about Miss Eva and her community is that like, no matter what your journey looks like and no matter what your goals look like I don't have a family I don't have kids. I'm not even married, all of my money is for me right now. And so my goals and my journey can look differently than anybody else. And so it's what I love about the community is that it's not about comparing. It's not about comparing, more so as like influence and inspiration.
That's right.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think that as human beings, it could be very natural to see somebody else succeed and say like hate on them and just be like, what the heck? Like, why can't I have that? But in this community, I'm more so like, yo, that inspires me that it can happen for me.
Absolutely.
I still want my Jeep, Miss Des, but maybe I can figure it out. But I hear Miss Des' story and I'm just like, I can't wait for that to happen for me. Yeah. I can't wait to be able to get back on a podcast and say something like that.
Yeah.
It will happen.
Yes. And what else? So the things that have happened for me. So my steps more so look like fixing my credit and paying off my credit card debt, as well as starting my own business and building business credit, which I didn't even know these terms before I met Miss Eva. And I was like, these are terms that you don't even learn like directly from just Miss Eva. You can just be on the Facebook group and see these words pop up and you get curious. And so it doesn't even have to be about Miss Eva. It can be just about the community. But when it comes to, fixing my credit, I used to have excellent credit. I used to be in the 700 club when I was in the early 20s, graduating from college. I got my first credit card and they told me, okay, just use it, pay it off every month and you're good. And so that's all I did. I didn't know why. I never understood like what it means to build credit. I just did what people told me to do. I used to be in the 700 club. I'm 21 years old. And what had happened was throughout life happened. My ambitions got bigger. Life battles happened. I don't have parents to rely on. My mother passed away and all of these things. And so I'm just like completely on my own at this point. If anything ever happens to me, I don't have parents home to go back to. Everything is on my own. And the pressure really just kept building on as the credit card debt started to build on. I was working hard. I was working really hard, but apparently that wasn't enough. Working hard isn't enough to just make more income, apparently. And so those credit card debts just started to build up and up and up. And at this point, it just got really overwhelming. But with Miss Eva, I'm switching this narrative that I am capable of paying it off. Yeah. What's hard about that mindset is that it's not like I have a job where I have a steady income to be able to say, I have steady income from working, therefore I can pay off my debt by this and the XYZ time. I'm like, I'm starting my own business. My income is very inconsistent, especially in the beginning. So even like when Miss Eva and I started working, I was like, please don't judge me. But like things are like not looking so hot and consistent right now. But that's, obviously the place that I would like to get to. But yeah, when it comes, it's about paying off my credit card debt. I'm about to pay off my first one. It could have been last week. But Chase is acting up, and so they're gonna hear from. I'm gonna pull a Miss Jess, and I'm gonna pull up at Chase Bank tomorrow. They're gonna hear from me. But other than that, because of Miss Eva, I was able to learn what it's like to work with a CPA. I wouldn't have known what a CPA even was, or how to even access them if it wasn't for her. Nice. I registered my business. I have like a legitimate business now, and this entire time I was scared of having my own business because of the taxes and the paperwork. And I didn't want to get in trouble with the IRS. And therefore I was holding myself back from my dreams. And I'm saying what God's purpose was for me. And so with the guidance of Miss Eva and the CPA, I was able to register my business. I have that business now. I was able to open up a business bank account because Miss Eva has this super dope connect named Safa. Safa, and he's great. And what I really needed was like, again, I keep saying this, but like reassurance and positive affirmations and things like that. So like having somebody like Miss Eva who's a high I, very energetic, very hopeful, very encouraging. So is Safa. Like oh my God, you feel his energy through the phone. I felt I don't feel scared anymore. And I think that's a really important thing for me. Like, I don't feel scared anymore. Oh God. I'm not gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. I don't know. Would you?
It's okay.
You got this.
I hate that, like, so much of my life I have to have mentors to guide me. It sucks. It really does. Like, I wish that I just had parents I could go to for advice, but I don't. And I hate it, but at the same time, man, God is so good, and He just surrounds you with people that you really need to get to where you need to.
That's right.
And I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm late. I'm late in my steps because here are my friends who got money. They're buying houses now. They're getting proposed to and married now, and they're 28, 29 years old. We're all growing up now. We're becoming adults now and having responsibilities now. And my friends know about like stocks and crypto. And I'm like, how do you know about that? And I don't. And I feel late. But when I get plugged into a community where I'm like, I see other older adults who might have a story of their
adults
own.
That are 40.
Or even like 50 and Reed University, and it reassures me like there's no right or wrong timeline. It's just about taking the steps, surrounding yourself with the right people. It's about education. It's not about age, because the older you get doesn't mean that you get more wise. That's not true. Just because you're older doesn't mean you're wiser. It's about access to education and information, about surrounding yourself with the correct community with enthusiasm and a lot of support and love, and like truly genuinely wanting well for one another and goodness for one another. I think that's really important for the well-being and growth of an entire community.
So Jiggy, what I really love about your story, and the thing is, like, when we do these things, it's not necessarily to like, have some kind of like highlight reel where, because believe it or not, I did not know Jessica was going to say that. That's news to me. I don't know. Eva maybe knew that, but I didn't know that. And so, and I'm the one who manages all this stuff, by the way, like, so that wasn't a part of it. And really, like, part of this is really, we want to hear from you. We really want to hear your stories, how they are, like, because we're not trying to be anything that we're not. Like, we know that this stuff, in terms of the information, is super powerful and it's life-changing. We know that. But in terms of how it changes your life in particular, we don't know how that's going to happen, right? But we do know that if you are open to it and you follow the steps, you're going to be able to live life on your own terms. Notice that we don't dictate the terms. We don't tell you this is how you should live your life, or this is the things you need to have. We're just trying to say that if you do these things, you will now have the options available to you that you didn't have before. And that's what we want for everybody. So it's going to look totally different. So the main thing about your story, Jiggy, I can relate to it a lot in a lot of ways, because I'm a high S and high C. So I'm also very cautious. I'm I gotta get all the details. And for me too, I started off with an amazing credit score. I had if you guys sometimes hear my story, I had a 750 and I was doing really well, and I was a principal and I, making tons of money, but also didn't understand, how to manage all this stuff. So it kept piling up. And right now, what I'm going through actively right now is recovering from that. I don't share that a lot. Why? Because I'm a high S, high C. So I'm not like Eva. I'm not just going to give all my business out there. It's going to come in little chunks, but one day, we've talked about this. I will tell my whole story one day, but I'm still in the midst of it myself. Right. So I don't have a story like Jessica right now. Right. That I'm still recovering. So hats off to you though. I look at your shirt, vulnerability is dope. That's awesome, right?
That's really appreciate. Get your shirt.
Hey, there it is. Yeah.
Mine should be coming.
Contact you if you need that shirt. I just love your story. And I love your vulnerability. And I love that you shared it, because there's so many people that can relate to you. And I want people to what I want people to understand and hear from Jiggy's story is that it doesn't have to be perfect like that. This being a part of the Lions Club doesn't necessarily mean that you will flick a switch and all of a sudden you got an 800 score. Not the point. The point is to be educated, to be empowered, to now know what you need to be doing. Because my road, just, everyone's road is different. I've been knowing even now for a year and a half now. I still ain't on the other side of this thing yet. You know what I mean? Because that's my journey. It's just taking some time. Things have happened, but it's all good. I'm still here. We're still going to keep going. And you know what? For sure, one thing I have learned, and one thing I'm hearing from Jessica and from you, is that we understand what we deserve. Yep. We understand that there is, what we want, we can have, right? The only thing that was missing was the education, right? And just the exposure. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely.
And I'd like to add, Jiggy, it's people like you who give me that hope and give me that drive, that power and that emotion and that feeling that you have behind everything, that makes everything go. That makes me work harder, because, you deserve everything that you get. You deserve it all. And don't sell yourself short, because you're doing amazing. And you've got the powerhouse behind you to support you. We are all here for you.
That's right.
And we've all been there. We will all be there again, I'm sure. Life is not a straight and narrow. It doesn't go up always. But you will get there, and you are the reason that it keeps pushing me. And, hats off to you. Thank you for sharing. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Jiggy, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Eva.
Yeah. And it's so important, because just like you said, every person is different. Every financial situation is different. And it's so important to celebrate all of the wins. I remember when you had that you went Facebook Live in the BU group, and how, and I ain't gonna lie, I screen recorded it, because I'm like, I need to have this video forever in my phone. Yes. Because the excitement of you just saying, I created a business and now it's legit, and I've got my business bank account, and I'm literally getting all my ducks in a row, and how that was such a huge accomplishment. Yeah. Like, we cannot downplay that. Like, there are still people in this world that don't know why they should be creating an LLC or a corporation, or what those tax benefits are, or by taking that step, all the abundance that's coming. And look, like, guys, like, Jiggy ain't even sharing everything. Like, dude, she's a blue belt in jujitsu. She just got like a high tickets paid for a speaking engagement. Oh, like, it's coming. And it's these little steps, laying the foundation, getting these little steps in so that you can have everything that's coming to you. And you said it so perfectly in that live video was, and you can probably say it way better than what I'm about to say it, but you basically said something like, I am now putting myself in position and God sees that. God is recognizing that. And he's like, let me feed her because, you know, she was hungry, but she wasn't ready. And one way that we can confirm that she's ready is by making sure she's got her business entity created, making sure she's got that business bank account so that that business income can come in and continue to grow. So no, we celebrating all the wins. You don't need, you know, the big dollars in the bank account. I mean, it'd be nice, right? But that's not what we celebrate. We celebrate all growth. We celebrate getting the information that's going to allow us to change the situation and allow us to become better a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. So absolutely, like, don't feel like, you know, my friends have this or this people. We love mentors. I love mentors, and I will continue to pay people for their experiences because that's how we grow. We can learn from other people's experiences. We just got to find those right people to pour into us to take us to the next level. So, yeah.
Well, Jiggy, I'm gonna, you know, ask you the same question how I ended with Jessica, just like, you know, like where you are now and kind of looking back to, you know, the young Jiggy as you were growing up and kind of understanding money, because there's a lot of people that can relate to you in terms of how they grew to understand money, the relationship they have with money. Just like you, I had this disdain towards money because of the lack that I had, and also being like, you know, I understand how talented I am. Why doesn't my bank account reflect how talented I am? So I understand it. So what would you say to that young Jiggy, especially, you know, where you are now?
Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. I would say that money is everywhere. Money is available, and you can make as much money as you want to. And I'm saying that because now as an entrepreneur, like, you can literally create anything you want and make money off of it. Like, you can literally do anything. And the crazy thing about that is, like, what I'm learning more and more about entrepreneurship and seeing other people is that, like, people don't buy, okay, you can have a crap product and still make so much money just by the confidence behind it, just by the marketing behind it. Like, I mean, in the speaking program that I'm at, it's like, you can put a price on yourself. There are great speakers who don't charge a lot because they don't think that they deserve it. But then there are, like, kind of like okay speakers and they charge so much more. And it's like, why? And whether they put on a great presentation or not, who cares? They got paid. They don't care.
Right?
It's the confidence behind it. It's the belief behind it. And it's just, it's the mentality, the posture, the mindset behind it. I'm just like,
that's right.
Money is everywhere. It's available. You just gotta just make something happen and go for it.
That is amazing. And so, I mean, I think that's an amazing segue, especially for Eva to give us, you know, her last thoughts before we end it. But yes, money is in abundance. And that's one thing that actually that was one thing that actually kind of freed me. I'd say I'm still evolving into it, but this is what I want to talk to Eva. We're going to talk about this later. But this idea of how much abundance it is still kind of like new to me, but I'm really opening up. But I've been so appreciative of Eva. She's been helping me, like, even see, you know, even more and more in terms. She always says that it's coming. You know, Eva over here claiming certain amounts of money for me, you know, but it's funny when she does it, it ends up happening, you know, and I'm like,
I'm like, I told you, it's coming.
So anyway, just amazing advice, amazing word there. So Eva, if you could, you know, just talk to us a little bit one last time, golden nugget for those people who started off, you know, in their childhood, kind of thinking money a certain way, kind of, you know, stuck, like feeling like, man, is this really for me? Like, can I really have this stuff? You know what I mean? Like, talk to them and share with them a little bit about, you know, what's possible.
Absolutely. Guys, whatever your past is about money, know that it can be better. Money is everywhere. I tell this to the lions all the time. Like, money's everywhere. You just got to figure out how to go get it. You know, I love, when Grant Cardone says, who got my money? Who got my money? Like, I got to go these places because they've got my money. And it's so true. It is having that posture and that mindset, knowing what you're worth. And if you don't even think you're worth that, surrounding yourself amongst the right people that says, oh no, girlfriend, you are worth this. You are worth way more than this. You are worth that 850 credit score. You are worth that 3.49% interest rate. You are worth creating an LLC, even if you spent more of your life working at a job. Why? Because you've got talents, you've got skills. And once you know what those talents and skills are, and you can put a dollar on it, people will pay. Just like what Jiggy said, there are people out here that have not so nice products, but they're making money. You can't hate on them. There's a reason why people are paying them for their product, services, or knowledge. Why can't you do the same? You absolutely can. You just got to get amongst the right people with the right information that's going to pour into you to allow your mindset to shift. So guys, whatever your ugly past, not so nice emotional situation is about money, you got to get with the right people. Surround yourself with those that have had those experiences, that can counsel you and mentor you into greatness, because money's everywhere. Just got to go out and get it.
All right. Well, thank you, Eva. Thank you, Jiggy. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Empower You Financial with Eva Palacios. One of the things that Eva enjoys most about being in personal finance is seeing people win. So if you are looking to improve your credit score because you're ready to make a major purchase, get better rates, or start living life on your own terms, visit Eva at evaempowers.com and schedule a consultation with her so you too can live life empowered.